Well, I'm Dr. White. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a member of a conservative church within the PCA. I'm a Reformed Baptist, and uh, at our current church, my wife and I love the preaching and the teaching, the community, the fellowship. It's a place that we feel shepherded, and like the leadership of our church is faithful to the principle of sola scriptura. However, uh, as I'm pushing forward in marriage, I understand that I'm not necessarily at the place to be somebody who's necessarily elder qualified. I'm about 3 years into marriage and still working on caring for my wife in a Christ-like manner. However, I understand that the Lord has gifted me with the ability to understand His Word. I have a desire and and a uh, and a particular gifting when it comes to theology and biblical exposition. Um, I know right now the church that I'm at currently is where we need to be. However, I also understand that at certain points in people's lives, when they be qualified men, they are commanded to seek either a diaconal position or an elder position. Being in the PCA, I'm never going to be able to be ordained because I don't fully affirm the Westminster Confession of Faith. However, I would feel comfortable affirming a document like the London Baptist Confession of Faith.
Right.
How should I uh, endeavor forward being a faithful member of my church, but also if God were to call me into ministry or some other office in the church, what's the best way to go about that?
Well, um, now this is interesting in comparison to Adrian's situation. I would imagine in Houston that you have wider options. Of course, having to drive through Houston fairly regularly myself, I'm not sure you want to drive very far in Houston traffic. I think the 10 going through Houston is probably backed up and locked up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, it's just, and your roads around there. Should we pray for healing for the roads in Houston, or just what? I'm really not sure. It's bad. Anyway, so Adrian's in a situation where this is pretty much probably going to be the only faithful church that he can find, and I would assume in Houston that there would be a number of faithful churches that you could serve in. You're currently in a PCA church. I happen to know, as you probably know, when I'm in Houston, the primary church that I'm ministering at, doing debates, is First Lutheran downtown, and the pastor there is a great guy, and we get along on. There's just a lot of topics that he would be willing to have me represent his side in debate there. So another example. Um, you know, I and then the church that I'm one of the pastors at, Apologia Church, we try to be as biblically, faithfully ecumenical as we can be. So you're being that with a PCA church, but they have, I would imagine if they're conservative, that means they're believing Presbyterians. That means they have specific standards, and so you're limited as to how you can exercise your gifts in a context like that. So, and that's the way it should be. I mean, we have Presbyterians in the membership of our church, but the position of the church is very clear: eldership, the diaconate, things like that. That's pretty clear as to where we're standing and the confession that we make and things like that. So, yeah, as uh, you're young in your marriage. You're only 40 years behind me in marriage. um, and you have the right uh, emphasis on growing in that relationship with your wife. When children come along, that's obviously going to raise issues. When you're a Baptist, even a Reformed Baptist, in a PCA context. And there can be some serious pressures there that, again, if you were out in the middle of nowhere and you didn't have any other choices, then you have to deal with those pressures and maybe make accommodations that don't require you to compromise your faith, but that you can get along with. But in Houston, there are, I'm sure, a number of faithful evangelical Reformed Baptist churches that you could be a part of. So it's a little bit of a different context, I would assume, than Adrian has, where you're forced to make those sort of ecumenical connections. Whereas at the moment, you're enjoying that fellowship, and that's great. But hey, if you want to move into further levels of ministry and teaching, you have to be in a place where you can do that. And given you're in Houston, there would be places where you could do that. Still there? I think yeah, well, it's muted according to the screen. But, well, hopefully that was useful. Sometimes things happen when you're on Zoom. You just have to. Hopefully that was useful. Okay.